in, speaking of social media, let's do our social media check-in. And our saying for today is, I choose to express my highest self at Unity of Joplin. I choose to express my highest self at Unity of Joplin. And yeah, what a wonderful time to be able to do that. So tweet that out, put it all over your social media, let your friends and family know where your heart is today, and we're so grateful that you're here. We're going to start with our gathering song. Oh, what a beautiful morning.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. And the old weeping willow is laughing at me. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful
Yes. Thank you, guys. What a beautiful version of that song. That comes to you from our amazing musical team. And that was John and Gary as soloists and Jerry accompanying them. Wow, wow, wow. Beautiful. Sets the whole tone for the service and for our day. And thank you, Michael, for helping to kind of coordinate the recording of all of that and the logistics so that we could hear it. Beautiful. We also have some others behind the scenes here, or in front of the scenes, if you will, helping us with the service. Our trustee of the day is Jefferson Myers, and Jefferson will be hanging out in the Facebook chat to answer any questions that you have, help you find links, and so forth. And I'm Ann Leach. I'm the platform person, the angel of ceremonies. No one's really called me that before, but I'm here to help things move along, and it's my pleasure to do so. And we will be hearing from Reverend Gordon for our meditation and our service today. We also like to give thanks for what we're about to receive. We'll be blessing our tithes and love offerings later in the service. But if you'd like it to jump ahead, you can go to unityofjoplin.org, hit the donate button, a drop-down menu appears, select Sunday service, and share your gifts with us. We appreciate that so much. Some announcements. We've been talking for weeks. There are things happening at Unity of Joplin despite these odd times that we're in. And so we invite you to join us for any of our classes, and also to check in with Gordon during the Rev's Ramblings. every night except Sunday night and except Wednesday night. We give them a little bit of a break, but 8 p.m. on Facebook, the rest of the time, just some nuggets of inspiration and lessons to get us through our week and each day. If you can't be there live, it's okay. Do the replay, no problem. Wednesday nights, we're blessed by the Myers family with the sharing of the Wednesday night word. You guys do such a great job with that. I usually have to do the replay, but Sam, I love your part, and it's just cool to see your family sharing in this way. That's also on our Facebook page. And yes, I mentioned our classes. You guys, so much. The mystics of the Middle Ages, the how to be an anti-racist. I mean, reach out to Gordon via email to get the links to these courses. And then coming up on September 15th, I'll be facilitating the Prosperity Plus course created by Mary Morrissey. You guys, this one is, well, they're all just great, but this one is really killer. I think it should be a requirement for every Unity member. If you are wanting to increase your abundance in all areas of your life, this is the place to be. There is a charge for the materials, so you'll want to reach out to Gordon to find out how to purchase them. And we start September 15th, so you're going to want to do that fairly quickly so you can get those materials in hand. Abundance is our birthright. If you have any questions about Unity, or if you hear something in today's service that you might have a question about, you're welcome to hang out with us for a little bit after the service. Gordon will be here to chat with you for as long as you want to. So you can grab a cup of coffee and have a visit with the Rev. All right. Man, there's always something going on. This is awesome. But we prepare for our service and to open our minds to receive the message today with the sharing of our daily word. And we are so blessed to have our office manager, Michael, who will be sharing the daily word for us and with us.
All right, here we go. I welcome moments of strife to pass through me without letting them define my reality. With the principle of faith, I believe the worst situations can cause the greatest effects. Through my trust in what can be, I am empowered to make life more like heaven every day. Because we are all divine expressions with our own power of creation, I choose to express my highest self and to be accountable for my influence. I invest my faith in the good things we all want. I go to that triumphant place in my mind and I feel those feelings now. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle of life may be found in one's forgetfulness of their relationship with the Supreme Lord. Bhagavad Gita 5:25.
Wow. Okay, thank you. And now we're going to prepare for the lesson with the singing of our next song, The Lord is My Shepherd.
The Lord is my shepherd, I'll walk with him always. Beside the still waters, I'll walk with him always. Always, always, I'll walk with him always. Always, always, I'll walk with him always. The Lord is my shepherd, I'll walk with him always.
as those sounds of that beautiful song resonate in our hearts, I invite you to close your eyes and imagine that you are walking beside a gentle flowing stream. You are not alone. It's a beautiful morning. The sound of the stream babbling over the rocks, the birds chirping in the air, a soft breeze. On one side is Jesus. On the other side is Krishna. Two embodiments of the Christ Spirit. Two souls that fully expressed their divinity. Each unique to their culture, each imparting the same message of love, compassion, and service. Imagine that you are walking with them as a dear friend. The three of you reuniting after not having seen each other for a long time. Breathing into this experience, I feel this unity with two great teachers, two great friends, each a shepherd in their own way. Jesus shepherding the sheep, Krishna shepherding the cows. Each a teacher, each a gentle voice of inspiration. I feel that bond with you. That bond that transcends human constructs of religion or time or space. In this now moment, I am divinely connected. Divinely connected with those who express the Christ to its fullest. And in so doing, I am connected to my own Christ center. I feel my divinity, that spark of God that is me, expressing as my humanness, expressing as a light through my fears, through my trials, through every experience of my life. It shines on my overcomings, on my awakenings, on my ahas. The same spirit that shines through Jesus, that shines through Krishna, shines through me. I rest in this warmth, in this light of love with my dear friends, beside this flowing stream, in silent beauty and contemplation. in the silence. I am filled with indescribable joy. I dance together in adoration of the light, in celebration of the divine presence within. In acknowledgement of the great teachers that have gone before. Filled with compassion, filled with joy, filled with beauty, filled with the spirit of service to God. I say thank you. Thank you. I say thank you to the divine indwelling Christ. Thank you to the avatars of God, to Jesus, to Krishna, to Buddha, to all of the great teachers, way showers, and masters. And I know I can tap into this feeling of joy at any time by turning within to my own indwelling Christ presence. In oneness, in beauty, in celebration, I become aware once again of my physical being as I return to wherever my body may be. And in the words of Ram Dass, I invite you to be here now. Namaste.
My sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. I really want to see you, really want to be with you, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord. Hallelujah. My sweet Lord. Hallelujah. My Lord. Hallelujah. My sweet Lord. Hallelujah. Really want to see you, really want to see you, really want to see you, Lord, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord. My sweet Lord, my Lord, my Lord. I really want to know you, really want to know you, really want to show you, Lord, and it won't take long, my Lord. My Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord. My sweet Lord, my Lord, my sweet Lord, my Lord. Really want to see you, really want to be with you, really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long, my Lord.
Wow, thank you guys. One of my favorite songs. Well, if you are new to Unity, you might be wondering why we are talking so much about Krishna here in Unity of Joplin. And that is for several reasons. One, Unity believes that there is truth in all the world's religions. And it just so happens that Tuesday is the celebration of Lord Krishna's birthday. So to all of our Hindu friends out there, I wish you a happy Janmashtami, which is how you say happy birthday Krishna in Hindi. And so what we are going to be looking at is the similarities and the commonalities that we have between our different faiths, our different spiritual paths, and between the stories about Lord Krishna and the stories about Jesus the Christ and their teachings. There's far more in common than there is different. And we can learn by looking through the lenses of various traditions and various spiritual paths to get different perspectives on these great truths that every master really taught. So I'm going to start today with the story that I put out in the e-letter that went out. If you don't get the e-letter, I invite you to sign up for it. Just go to our website and click subscribe. I also had a recipe in there, for those of you who get it, on how to make dahi kandi. And dahi kandi is a traditional type of Indian yogurt that is made this time of year in celebration of Krishna's birthday, and that it has to do with the story of Lord Krishna. So I'll be sharing some of that with you today as well. But let us begin with the story. There once was a child who lived in an empire ruled by an evil emperor. Though food was plentiful in the empire, the emperor confiscated all of the milk so that he could hoard it and sell it back at exorbitant prices to the people of his empire. Particularly hard hit were the children. With no dahi, no butter, no milk, they were famished. They were malnourished. But one day, a starving boy came up with an idea. He would gather his friends together, and they would build a human pyramid that would reach to the top of the warehouses. And there, the youngest child would climb the pyramid, climb onto the roof, enter in through the opening, and throw open the doors of the buildings where the milk was stored. From there, they could enter and throw the milk out to the people. The child was called Makan Kaur, or butter thief. Because of his actions, the child and his friends grew strong, and throughout the rest of their lives, Makan Kaur served the people of community, and the people of the community served him. They fed together, they fed the hungry, they healed the sick. They made it possible for peace and prosperity to be manifest within their community. Makan Kaur rose in stature and respect, and eventually received a new name, Lord Krishna. That is one of the early stories of how Krishna came to be who he was. And as I said, on Tuesday, our Hindu brothers and sisters will be celebrating his birthday. But we are not all Hindu, but that doesn't mean we cannot celebrate together. And as I said earlier, most Christians would be truly shocked to learn the similarities between our stories, the stories of our teachers and way-showers, and our spiritual paths. So who was this Lord Krishna? What is it that we have in common? Well, who he was the 8th avatar of Vishnu. Now, an avatar is simply a word we use to mean the representations of something. Just as Jesus represented God in his life, Krishna represented the creator, Vishnu, in his life. He became a god unto his own right. And he is considered the god of compassion, the god of tenderness, the god of love. He is the principal character in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavad Gita, and he is depicted in several different ways. Early in his life, he is shown as a godlike child, much like Jesus was as a baby. He's also portrayed as a young boy growing up, kind of a prankster, a mischievous child, but in a good way. We'll talk about some of that in a little later. In his late teens and early 20s, he is depicted as the model lover. But it's a metaphysical representation of the love of God for his creation, for his children, and his children's love for their parent. He is depicted as a divine hero and the universal supreme being. There are many traditional stories about Lord Krishna. The story of him stealing milk or butter as a child to feed his village, as a young man with a flute, celebrating and dancing and laughing and having fun and rejoicing in the presence of love. He became a lover of Radha, his consort, and later an advisor to Arjuna the charioteer, 4 distinct periods of his life. But he first shows up in literature, in history, in the first millennium BCE, with the story of his birth. You're going to hear some similarities in this story. He was born to Devaki and her husband Vasudeva. Notice they always say the mother's name first. But when Krishna was born, there was a prophecy going around that the evil emperor was afraid that one of his nieces or nephews, and Krishna was one of his nieces or nephews, would rise up and assassinate him. So when Krishna was born, Vasudeva carried Krishna away and exchanged him for a child in another kingdom from another family. He returned to his own village. His brother, as I said, was the evil emperor. And Kamsa, the evil emperor, came to the home to kill Krishna. But when he went to kill the fake baby, the replacement, the baby changed into the goddess Durga and warned Kamsa that he was already dead, that there was nothing he could do to escape his fate unless he changed his ways. Well, Kamsa went back to the palace and did not change his ways. Lord Krishna, in the meantime, grew up in this faraway kingdom, typical of the children of his culture. One of his first duties as a child was to herd the cattle, he was responsible for their welfare, for the cattle provided the milk and butter. And as I shared at the beginning, those goods were withheld from the people of the kingdom. But Lord Krishna found a way around them. And as a young child, he gathered his friends together and created that human pyramid. And that is part of the celebration of his birthday today in villages. The children and young people have contests where they'll build human pyramids, sometimes as high as 9 levels high. And there's a pot of dahi kandi, which is the pudding, suspended from a trestle or a crane or a rafter. And the goal of each team is to see which team can grab hold of that, kind of like a piñata in Hispanic tradition, except instead of breaking it open, they bring it down and then they share it with the village. Sometimes there are other prizes that go along with the team that grasps the pot of dahi kandi first. So those stories have become part of tradition. As a youth, he was active. As he grew and became a teen, he was the darling of the goptis, which were the milkmaids. It was the women's job to milk the cattle and make the dahi every day. And many of them would gather around him when he played his flutes. They would drop whatever they were doing and come from near and far to dance and sing and celebrate. He had responsibilities and he fulfilled those responsibilities, but he also fully embraced the joy of life. And it is said that his flute playing was so divine and so powerful that young maidens miles and miles away would hear his flute and stop and go within in meditation to join in celebration. And this celebration is depicted as, yes, being sensual, but it is also a time of union with the Creator. In Hindu tradition, in Eastern tradition of all styles, in Islam, there's this celebration that is sensual, that is joyful, that embodies life and creation. We find it in the Song of Solomon, in our own writings. It is universal. It is joyous. And so he was that. He was also an athlete. But the stories say that he did not play just for sport, and certainly not for gain. He played for the pure fun and joy of it. As he grew into adulthood, he returned to his birthplace, where he eventually overthrew the evil emperor, and endowed his father with the throne. In that time, he made a friend with one of the great generals named Arjuna. He also had 8 wives. You'll notice there's a repetition of that number 8 in these stories, just like there's a repetition of the number 12 in Christianity and Judaism. 8 represented the fulfillment of divine potential, the gathering together of all powers and all forces. And so any time in Hindu tradition, when you see that number 8, it means that whoever it is or whatever it is has become complete, has risen to its highest level of expression. Just as Jesus rose to his highest level of teaching and expression when he had gathered his 12 disciples together. So he gathered his friends together, he gathered his wives together, and he became a powerful teacher. He became someone who was looked up to, someone who was admired and followed. And there came a time when a war broke out, and Arjuna was tasked with raising the army and going out onto a great plain to meet the opposing army. And Arjuna drove his chariot out in front of his army, and there gathered across the plain, just like we hear the stories of Megiddo and places like that, the 2 armies gathered. And as Arjuna looked out across the plains, he realized that all of the generals in their chariots in front of the opposing army were his own kin. They were his cousins, his grandfather, and he wept because he did not want to go to war with his own family. This story comes to us from the Bhagavad Gita, from a particular, from within the Mahabharata. And as Arjuna is wrestling with having to go to war with his own family, an advisor steps into his chariot with him. Now, he doesn't recognize this advisor. He has taken on a different aspect, but it is none other than Lord Krishna himself. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there are many chapters that follow of a discourse between Arjuna and Krishna, who he does not recognize, on matters of life, the nature of life, on ethics, and morality, on what to do when one is tasked with overcoming evil. And that discourse came to be the sacred writing that is called the Bhagavad Gita, and it is contained within the Mahabharata. Well, the battle finally occurs, and Arjuna is victorious. And there is a great celebration, and in that celebration, Krishna reveals himself, and he steps off out into the woods and lays down underneath a tree to go to sleep. And in that story, one of the celebrants mistakes Arjuna for a sleeping deer and shoots him with an arrow and kills him. But Arjuna leaves his body in the story, and he returns to the people in a body so fine and so pure that it is as if it is a body of light. And over the course of time, he appears to his people over and over again, to his followers, to his friends, and gives them teachings until eventually he is done, and he rises up into the heavens and vanishes. Now, if you think about it, there's a lot of similarities to the stories of Jesus, about how after the crucifixion he rose again and came to his followers and gave teachings to them for 40 days, and then eventually he too rose into the heavens. So there is debate among people. Some people say, well, Jesus was the reincarnation of Krishna. Krishna lived thousands of years before Jesus. There are some who say that Jesus maybe studied Hinduism. Certainly it was an ancient religion by the time Jesus came onto the scene, and Jesus would have had access to it because he lived where these different cultures overlapped. There are some who say that Jesus went to India to study. We don't know. We'll probably never really know, at least not in this human experience. But we do know this, that that same spirit of the divine that lived within Krishna, that lived within Buddha, that lived within Jesus, that lives within all of us is universal. It is a universal truth. And so perhaps these stories, these legends, come forth from time to time in conjunction with their own cultures, in ways that can be understood by the people of the day, because they hold great truths. They are archetypal. Charles Fillmore talked a lot about this. He wrote that there is a golden thread of truth that winds through and binds together all of the world's great spiritual teachings. Excuse me. Yes, the dogma may be different. The rituals may be different. The characters may be different. But the core ideas are universal. They are all the same. And the core stories of the heroes are very, very similar. So what is the connection we have to this? What is the connection between Krishna and Jesus, the Christ? Well, first we have to look at the very names. Krishna comes from the Sanskrit root Krishna. Krishna came down into our language through the Greek Christos, through the Latin Christus, and finally was anglicized as Christ. In Hindi, which is the tradition of the Hindu people, it came down from the Sanskrit Krishna as Krishna. And the word literally translates in both languages as the anointed one, or as the illumined, or the enlightened. If we continue to look at the other similarities of these stories, we see that both Jesus and Krishna were miraculously conceived. Both had royal genealogies. Both were threatened with death at birth by an evil king. Both were human incarnations of a triune God. Both were tempted by demons when they were young. Both worked miracles. Jesus is often depicted as a shepherd of sheep. Krishna as a cowherd, not coward, cowherd, herding cattle. Both of their teachings are very similar. They both emphasized love, peace, compassion, forgiveness. Looking at some of the quotes of these two great teachers, we see other similarities. Krishna in the Gita says, "Whenever, O Arjuna, righteousness declines, my body assumes human form and lives as a human being." He also says, in order to protect righteousness and also to punish the wicked, I incarnate myself on this earth from time to time. Looking at the sayings of Jesus, we see, if God were your father, you would love me, for I proceed forth and come from God. Neither come I from myself, but I come from he who sent me. Here's another one. Krishna said, I am the way. Come to me. Neither the multitude of gods nor great sages knows my origin, for I am the source of all gods and the great sages. Of course, we're familiar in the West with Jesus. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really knew me, you would know my Father as well. Krishna said, man attains peace who lives devoid of longing, free from all desires and without feeling of I and mine. This is the Brahman state. Jesus said, he who overcomes I will make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall no more go out. Krishna said, I am the origin of everything, and everything arises out of me. Jesus said, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth in me shall never thirst. You know, I could do this all day, saying after saying after saying. We could connect it to the sayings of the Buddha. We could connect it to other mystics and other teachers of other paths. God speaks through everyone. God speaks through the way showers and the teachers. Yes, he speaks to the individual cultures in the languages that can be understood by those who are reading and listening in various times and various places. But the words and the message are the same. So was Jesus an earlier incarnation of Krishna? I think they were both expressions of God. These truths live in everybody who has ever lived, is alive now, and ever will live. The only difference is some of us know more. Some of us turn in with more. Some of us recognize that God speaks through us. All of us, every one of us. Continuing to look at some of these similarities, both rose from the dead, both ascended into heaven, both died to their human form violently, and both theologies of Christianity and Hinduism at their cores are theologies of grace. Krishna said that when he slays demons or his enemies, he forgives them and he sends their souls to heaven. Think about something Jesus said. You know, I think this may be one of the most powerful teachings of Jesus' life. There were several. This was one. When he was on the cross, he looked down at those who had crucified him. And he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Very similar to Krishna forgiving those that he had to slay and sending their souls to heaven. Something in us can recognize, even when we are done wrong, that it is not the true being that has harmed us. And we can come from a place of passion and forgiveness. There's another similarity between the two in that both in Hinduism and in Christianity, Jesus and Krishna are expected to return. The difference is Christianity has forgotten that the Christ returns all the time. The Christ is always showing up in front of us. And so Christianity has said, well, he will return someday at the end times. In Hinduism, Lord Krishna returns whenever that spirit of compassion and love is needed. And sometimes even when it's not expected, or they don't know it's needed, he returns. He may return in the eyes of a friend, in the embrace of a loved one, in words of hope from someone. I believe that the Christ returns that way as well. But we have been programmed away from seeing it too often. So let's take a look at some other similarities and how people like Charles Fillmore saw these commonalities. Charles Fillmore understood that Jesus was the fulfillment of God's divine idea for humanity. Jesus fully expressed the Christ, which is a potential within you and me and everybody. Jesus fully expressed that for all of us to say, yes, I can do that too. Jesus said, all of these things that you do, I do, you will do and more when you have believed what I have said, in the original Aramaic. Krishna said the same thing. Jesus was human, but he realized, which that word means to make real. He realized the Christ within, the pure potential of the divine that is the heart of every human being. It is the light of God that is in us, that lives through us, that lives as us, to the level of our ability to accept, express, and understand that. As I said, we all have the same potential, but we are all at different places on the journey. What is the destination, though? I've had people actually say, well, if we're all on this spiritual journey, what is the destination? Well, the destination is that is modeled by the great sages, by Jesus, by Krishna, by the Buddha. It is a place of full expression of the divine within. It is God expressing as us and through us. Charles Fillmore wrote in Mysteries of John, when our blind, stumbling thoughts awaken to the reality of the Christ, darkness falls away at last, and we see clearly. Kind of sounds a little like Paul. You know, when I look in the mirror, what do I see? Darkly. Cora Fillmore wrote in Teach Us to Pray, "Through the Christ, we have dominion. Through the Christ, it is possible for us to make the perfect union between soul and body, to enter into the consciousness of almightiness, and thus being restored to the paradise of God, from which we came forth originally." The legends of Krishna are rife with stories of love between Krishna and the gopis and his followers and his friends. And the legends of Jesus are rife with stories of compassion and love between him and his followers, between him and his friends. You know, in Christianity, we are taught that we must love Jesus without really understanding what that means. And we think, well, we must love him because of what he did 2,000 years ago. And so we're taught to love, or to try to love, you know, a legendary mythological figure that lived a long time ago. When really, I think what he was teaching was love the Spirit of God that is within you. Love that Christ presence that I show you, because you too are worthy of love. It's the same thing that was in the Song of Solomon, that love of the divine, the relationship we have of oneness that was represented in the stories of Krishna's love for his followers, in the poems of Rumi, in the stories of love from Buddhism. It is devotion to God, who shows up as our heroes, our way showers, our messiahs, our saviors. It is also the devotion of a loving creator to its creation. You know, that love goes both ways. Too often we forget that. And most importantly, how do we show this divine love? How do we do this dance of love that comes forth in these mystical poems? It is through service to one another, through compassion to one another, because we are all, each and every human being, is the expression of the divine. It is not enough in Christianity to love God, to love Jesus. And unfortunately, that is the narrowness that Christianity has shrunk to. Love Jesus, and all will be well. I think that's a false form of Christianity. True Christianity would be loving each other, loving all people, because that Christ presence lives in all people, whether they are Christian or not, whether they are living what we call a good life or not. If we want to dance with the divine, we must have compassion and love for one another. And we do that through service, divine service. You know, the huge failure of Christianity is that we have taken our eyes off the living embodiments of God, our fellow human beings. We think we are to worship a far-off deity, when instead we should worship God in one another. The stories of Krishna, the stories of the Christ, the stories of how they served their people are the stories of how we should worship. You know, they were both human, and they both had human experiences. They both had strengths. They both had weaknesses. They both had those moments when they did not show up to their full potential. Jesus kind of lost it, you know, in the temple with the money changers, although I think that was a very well thought out act. But we'll talk about that in another lesson. Krishna had his moments as well. And, you know, in Christianity, so much focus is put on the greatness of Jesus as being centered in his crucifixion and resurrection, instead of in his service to the poor, the hungry, those who are not yet awakened to the truth of their being, the ill. I've often thought that instead of putting our focus on the passion of the Christ, we should put our focus on the compassion of the Christ. Both Jesus and Krishna focused on compassion. To be a lover of God is to be as God is. And that model that was demonstrated by those who bore the title of the illumined ones, of the messiahs, of the saviors, was one of service. To be a lover of God, we should be of service to one another. Charles Fillmore wrote in Talks on Truth, God has but one child, the Christ, the ideal human. And this divine conjunction was accomplished by Jesus, and I'm going to interject, and Krishna, and Buddha, and you, to their varying degrees of expression. And the Christ shone out through their mortal selves and illumined them until they lost their personality and disappeared into divine individuality. You know, in Hindu tradition, there is a wealth of music and songs about devotion of the followers of Krishna to him. There's Radha Govinda, one of my favorites. Hare Krishna. By the way, the guys in the airports didn't really express to those of us who were rushing through what that was all about. If we had stopped and taken the time to talk to them, might have had a different version of who they were. But anyway, Hare Krishna, Ha Govinda, Ha Gopata, all of those songs are about love and service. And both men were the embodiment of the essence of God that was in them, in us, and in every human being. And so on Tuesday, we joined together in celebration with our Hindu brothers and sisters of that universal Christ, that universal Krishna, which is in all of us. And we say to our brothers and sisters, Happy Janmashtami. Happy birthday, Krishna. We behold the divine in you. Namaste.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. You guys, if you are visiting us for the first time or the second time, you are seeing and hearing just the tip of the iceberg of these wonderful messages full of history and bringing history to life that Gordon shares with us. So inspiring and so much to think about during the week as we take that in. So thank you. Thank you for your words, Gordon. We appreciate you, definitely. And we appreciate our church. We appreciate this opportunity to share with the world these teachings. And one way we express that appreciation is through the sharing of our tithes and love offerings. So I'll invite you to take those into your hands symbolically, or if you have a check ready to go, feel free to just bless these gifts with me.
Hey, Ann,
Yes.
before we do that, I'd just like to interject a little bit here. We still have our building. Yes. We are still working towards getting back into that building when it is safe to do so. We invest a lot into making it possible for us to still gather this way, to still reach out to one another, to still have these messages and these classes and these events. And we rely on your help. I know for many people it's difficult right now. Maybe you're not comfortable with giving electronically. We understand that. But we still need your tithes and your offerings to continue this work. We want to be able to gather together in person when that time comes again. And so I want to remind you that if you are not comfortable giving electronically, you can still mail us your checks. Our address is P.O. Box 1207. That's P.O. Box 1207, Joplin, Missouri, 64082. And we really appreciate it. You know, I know there's a lot of you that maybe you're thinking, well, I'll just give a big tithe when we come back together. You know, I'm just going to tell you, the utility companies and people like that don't wait. They're not waiting for us to come back together for us to pay them. So to those of you who have continued to support us through all this time and You know who you are, and we so appreciate you. For those of you who maybe haven't, think about this, that we do still have obligations. I have invested a lot of my personal finances into making it possible to do this. The church has invested, and we are committed to being able to reach out, being able to do what we do, and we rely on your help, and we are so grateful.
Yes.
So just something to keep in mind.
Yes, thank you for that reminder. And but more importantly, it's just a part of our personal expression of being in that flow of giving and receiving. So we are going to bless these gifts and know that the blessing comes back 100 times unfolded over and over. It never fails. So join me, please. In a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all of the needs of unity of Joplin and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. And we say, thank you, God. Because we know that these tithes and offerings are dedicated to the will and work of Spirit through unity of Joplin, but for the highest good of all. And we are so grateful. Thank you. We've welcomed you if you're visiting, and we welcome you now. You can always visit our Facebook page. You can check out our calendar on our website, unityofjoplin.org. Feel free to jump in and participate. Any of our classes now, because of the investment in our technology and the opportunity to meet via Zoom and Facebook, you can be anywhere in the world and still partake of this information and this experience, meeting new people and connecting around your love of Spirit. So please reach out to Gordon, check us out, and feel free to message us with any questions or concerns. And we always like to bless our children. We recognize the physical form of the children today, but we also honor our inner child as we continue to grow in unity. So let's bless these kids and ourselves with our blessing. Children, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. And that's the truth. All right, let's do our peace song and then our prayer for protection.
Begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen.
Amen. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Stick around if you like, and if not, have a great week.
Yeah, and I'm going to say hi to a few more people who I see have joined us on Facebook. Cornelius, and let's see, Jim. Julia's with us. Hi, Julia. Mike, good to see you all. Glad you are all here.
Yeah, awesome.
Fun having all these different Facebook. I see Neely and Jeff had a watch party going, and don't know who else, but it's so much fun to see so many. Oh, hey, Kelsey. Hi. Kelsey's with us.
Oh, yeah, and our Earth Care team is going to hop in a room in a few minutes, right?
I think so. If I can, I don't know if I can do a room because Michael, you may have to do that. And I don't know. We may not even have a room available right now. Michael, on yours, do you see a breakout room anywhere?
I do.
Okay. All right.
I should be able to do that for y'all.
Good.
Awesome.
Oops, somebody posted something in chat. A zip code for the P.O. box. Oh, somebody did it. Yeah, good.
Yeah, 64802.
Oh, yeah. Did I say 4?
You said
No.
082.
Oh.
I think you said something else.
Oh, well.
And I zoned out on the P song and didn't do the slides right. Apologize.
That's all right. It all worked.
Yeah, it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I lost.
Very nice.
There we go. I lost everybody there for a second. I just got a notification we have an Earth Care team meeting. A few minutes. Michael, you know how to do that?
Yeah, I think so. I imagine I can figure it out.
Okay, yeah, it's pretty easy. Jim, how you doing? And Sandra, good to see you.
Doing okay, thank you, Gordon. How you been?
Good. Good.
Oh, good. Sandy's back. Hi.
Hi, Sandy.
Glad you are here. Did I hear Susie?
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
are. Yes.
Did.
Hey, I'm going to ask you another question, Gordon, if you don't mind.
We'll try to answer it. No promises.
He who overcomes I. What can you tell me the rest of that and possibly?
He who overcomes I.
It was from a quote from Jesus when you were comparing Krishna and Jesus. I mean, I don't want to put you in a bind or hold up this group if they want to visit.
Now, let me see if I can find it here.
All right. Who else is here? Lou, how you doing, Lou?
Good, Jim. And you?
I'm okay.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Michael, thank you for doing such a wonderful job there at the controls.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And Jeff, I really like the way you have your dog trained. If you're still there. And our angel, fabulous job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Marilyn, how are you?
I'm perfect.
Perfect.
Doing well. So good to see you.
Oh, well, thank you, Marilyn. Sandra, I don't believe we've met. I'm Jim Brumfield, as you can see.
Hey, I go by Sandy, and I was here last week. I'm new in Web City. I moved down from Nevada. I'm in a new house. I'm enjoying myself so far.
Good.
My dogs and I have found Dover Hill a lovely place to in the
Good, good. How many dogs you have?
I have two. I have a rescue about 2 years old who's quite a handful. And an older blind dog named Ginger, who's a good dog. I call her my first best dog because Sophie doesn't understand first best.
Well,
Have
thank
you
you
found
for,
King Jack Park?
I'm sorry,
Is there in Hub City?
Dover Hill?
No, have you found King Jack Park in Webb
No.
City?
No, I didn't know if it was okay to take dogs there.
I walk my dogs there sometimes, so yeah.
Well, my
Go,
Sophie
go.
is a frisbee dog, so we need to find a place where there are not other people or dogs.
Okay.
So Dover Hill's working fine until November when I understand it closes because they
Yeah.
don't have sledding.
Going to build an elementary school on Dover Hill.
Yep.
Oh,
Elementary school
okay.
will be there.
Okay, well, we'll enjoy it while we can.
There you go.
Yeah, King Jack is huge, so there's probably a place you can find there. That there's also the dog park. You have to pay a fee to use it, but it's
Yeah.
cheap.
That's in Joplin, though.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Jim, that quote is from Revelation, and it's from the original Greek. So you probably won't find it in the King James.
did you find the quote? What's the rest of it? He who overcomes I.
Let me get you the number here. It's I had it here on my screen for a second.
Oh, I can review the
Revelation 21.
okay. Okay.
But as I said, it's from the Greek, not King James. So
Okay.
What was that chapter and verse reference again?
321.
321. Thanks. And while I have the floor here, Gordon, I just like to say I really enjoy these combinations of history and comparative religion.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have do you have the Greek Bible, Lou?
No, afraid
Oh.
not. But
Okay.
I'm sure you can find one online.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find.
Okay. Thank you.
Lou, you would enjoy the Thursday night class about the mystics.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yes, I keep meaning to sign up on that and keep forgetting.
I'll send you a link to the Google Drive where we have the recorded lessons if you want to watch them at your leisure. There's only one we're missing because I forgot to hit record.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh, I'm still streaming to Facebook. I should stop that, I suppose.
Mhm.
Hi, everybody on Facebook. Good to see you all.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.